All right, let's check out the answers for 13.5's independent practice. This is from the practice book. So number one here, we have the distance in miles that 6 people traveled. Which measure of center best describes the data set? Explain your reasoning. They went ahead and they found the mean, median, and mode for you already. I do have the data up here ordered, and this line represents the median, which is 15. So the answers that you should have had is the mean is less than 4 of the data points. The mean is 13. That would fit right here. And as you can see, it's less than those 4 numbers. The mode describes only 2 data points. That's the mode 16. These are the 2 data points it describes. And then the median is the best description of the data because it's smack dab in the middle. And like I said, the median, you pretty much can't go wrong if you choose the median as your best measure of center to describe your data. It's always going to be in the middle by definition. Number 2, the number of pets that several children have. We want to make a box plot, find the range and the IQR, and then decide which measure of variability, the range or the IQR, is better. So first, before you make a box plot, you must order your data, which is what we have at the top here. This is our ordered data. You need to find the median, which is between the two 2's here. And that means your median is 2, and that represents this dot right here. The lower quartile is going to be the middle of these bottom 5 numbers, and that is the first one, and that's why we have a dot here at this one. The upper quartile, or Q3, is going to be this second 3. It's the middle of these 5 numbers to the right of the median. That's why we have this dot here. And then the whiskers, our biggest and smallest numbers, are 0 and our 10. All right, to find the range, you take the whiskers, 10 minus 0, and you get 10. And to find the interquartile range, you take the 2 quartiles, the upper and the lower, the Q3 and the Q1. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now to answer that question, which one is the better measure of variability? That would be the IQR. Most of the data values are from 1 to 3, so the interquartile range is a better description of the data set. We will look at that here. Here we go. Most of the values are between these numbers. And in the previous lesson, I had told you if you have a small box and either 1 long whisker or 2 long whiskers, the IQR is the better one to choose. You can see that in your picture of your box and whisker plot. And I also said in the previous lesson, if there's a big difference, pretty big difference between the range and the IQR is going to be the better description of the variability. All right, number 3, we're looking for a measure of center for Brett's history quiz scores. To find the mean, you need to add them all together and divide by the number of numbers in your data set, which is 7. You end up getting 74.3. You need to have that decimal point there. For the median, you need to put them in order, starting with a 0. And 85 is in the middle. You have 7 scores, so 85 is in the middle. And then your mode, you don't have a mode. There is no repeating. So what is the best measure of center? Well, the median is. The reason is because there is no mode, and the mean is less than almost all of the data values. The mean, if we were going to actually take it and insert it into our data set, it would go right here. And that is definitely not representative of a typical score that Brett would get. It's really brought down by this 0, which is definitely a major, major outlier. And then the final problem, the 8 students were absent for the following number of days. Decide if range or interquartile range better describes the data set and explain your reasoning. So first, we said to do this one without making a box plot. It's definitely possible to do this without making a box plot. All you need to do is put your data in order, find your median, which is right here between the 3 and the 4. So that would be 3.5. Once you have your median, you find the middle of the bottom half of your numbers. That's going to be right in between the 1 and the 2. So that makes it 1.5 or 1.5. And then the upper quartile, or the Q3, is going to be the middle of the upper half of the number, so it's in between the 6 and the 7, so that's 6.5. And remember, when you're making your quartiles, you're making them into 4 quarters. You see we have a group of 2, and then dividing point, group of 2, dividing point, group of 2, dividing point, group of 2. So we have 4 equal groups. To find that interquartile range, you can take that Q3, that Q1, or that upper and lower quartile, subtract them, and you get 5. To find that range, you just take your biggest, your smallest, subtract them, and you get 8. Now for this one, we're actually going to choose the range. I don't know if we ever chose the range as your best measure of variability, but this time we actually did. Why do we pick the range? Well, let's read what it says. There are several low values, but there are also several high values. So there are some low ones like 0, 1, and 2, but there's some big ones like 6, 7, 8. And there's not a big difference between your range and interquartile range. This was what I said in the previous lesson. If the two numbers, your range and interquartile range, don't have a very big disparity, range is going to be the one that you choose. You don't have any outliers here. If this was a box and whisker plot, you'd have no long whiskers. All right, and that is that. Now, feel free to go back and change any of your answers before you hit submit.